everyone, my name is Mary Ellen and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things related to the storytelling industry. If you don't already know me, I write nonfiction under my real name, Mary Ellen Quigley, and romance under my pen name, M.E. Laverne. In today's video, we're going to talk about NaNoWriMo. Now, if you have not already watched 20 videos about this week, prepare yourself because you will. This is the topic of the week. So as soon as I saw this news come out on Monday, I had to do a video on it, which is also why I'm posting a few days earlier than I usually do. Now, I don't think it comes as a shock to anyone that this organization is closing, and although I'm very sad by it, I'm not surprised. So let's talk about it. Now, first of all, I'm going to say that NaNoWriMo, for those of you who have been watching me for a while, has been a huge part of my life for many, many years. And I know that this organization and this challenge in general has been responsible for jumpstarting so many author careers. So I actually have been participating for, oh my goodness, I'm wanting to say I started participating in like 2002, 2003. So NaNoWriMo was first started back in 1999. It was a very small start at the beginning, but I know that they formed their organization, I'm wanting to say in 2005 or 2006 is when they became an actual organization. Prior to that, it was just, spread through message boards on college campuses. And I first started participating in college when a friend recommended it to me. She was like, hey, there's this really cool thing. It's called NaNoWriMo. You write a book in a month. I know you've always said you wanted to write a book. Let's try it. And I was like, absolutely, I'm down for it. And that was my first attempt at ever writing a book. I fell in love with writing at that point, and I have been writing ever since. So again, I cannot discredit this organization for being really the reason why I fell in love with writing in the first place and believed that I could actually write a book. For some of the younger people in this world, or for anybody who's new to writing, it may be hard to understand why NaNoWriMo was such a big deal. It still is in the writing community, but to kind of put some context behind it, think back to when the organization started. Back when I was in college, so back in like 2002, 2003, there was no big social media like there was today. We had the beginnings of social media, but nothing huge. There was no YouTube, there was no TikTok, there was no Discord groups, there was nothing like that. So in order for you to find like-minded people, you usually had to go on either Yahoo groups, which was horrible, I hated Yahoo groups, or you had to go on message boards, and usually your message boards would be grouped by topic. So when NaNoWriMo came out and they had a message board about writers getting together in their states and cities to write together, that was a huge deal because that wasn't something we had before. We always have the joke that it looks like the NaNoWriMo website was made like 15 years ago and nobody ever updated it. I'm pretty sure that might be accurate, but if you go into their forums today, they're very similar to how they were set up originally, right? Like it hasn't changed much since the beginning, but the way that it worked was you signed up for the challenge by joining a region, and that was usually like either a section of your state, or if you're in a larger city, it was a city. I was in Indianapolis at the time for the college that I was going to, and so I joined the Indianapolis region of NaNoWriMo. Now, back in the day, the draw to NaNoWriMo was not just meeting like-minded people who like to write, it was meeting them in person and actually developing real friendships, because there was no let's do a write-in together on YouTube. YouTube didn't exist. So instead, you would get together in person, and there would be a leader or multiple leaders for each region, and they would put together in-person events. And so you would have a kickoff party, and then you would have, an all-night writing session that you do at the very first day, and then you would meet multiple times throughout the week. And then at the end, everybody would get together and do a party celebrating the fact that you wrote your novel. And this was done in person at libraries, bookstores, coffee shops, wherever you could host it. We would all get together. And some of us didn't even have laptops back then, so you'd get together with your notebook and handwrite. You would handwrite in your notebook unless you were rich enough to have a laptop back then. And that's how you would do your NaNoWriMo write-ins. And it was wild, but it was the best time to sit in a room with all these people. And the best part about it was making friends. I still have people I talk to every week, every 2 weeks that I met at NaNoWriMo write-ins, and we'll just check in. Hey, what are you working on? or we'll beta read for each other or bounce ideas off of each other. Now we're all in a Facebook group together, but it all started off on those janky old NaNoWriMo forums that haven't changed much, and us doing in-person write-ins. So that was the draw of NaNoWriMo. It was the community. It was feeling like, oh my goodness, other people like writing too, and being encouraged by them. How many words did you get written today? You can do it. Keep writing. You can hit your 50,000 words in November. It was so encouraging, and that's what drew people into the organization. As social media grew and as things evolved over time, people started leaving the NaNoWriMo website and moving on to other forums. So that is why you now have Facebook groups and YouTube channels and Discord servers, and authors will get on TikTok and do lives during NaNoWriMo, and let's write together on TikTok. Like, we moved off of the NaNoWriMo forum because one of the biggest complaints I have had with the organization, I've been screaming it for like a decade because I saw this coming 10 years ago, was when everybody started moving into other forms of social media, they did not. And I kept thinking to myself, if they don't move on with the times, if they don't evolve with the way the rest of the world is evolving, they are going to become irrelevant. And that's exactly what happened. So take the fact that prior to all the scandals that we're going to talk about here in a minute, prior to all the scandals, they were already starting to die off, because I can remember pre-COVID, like logging in like 2017, 2018, 2019 to join my region, and there was nobody in the region. I live in Indiana, and the most active region in Indiana is the Indianapolis region. But I now live in Northwest Indiana, and guess what? We have not had a region leader for anybody in the northern part of the state for probably close to a decade. So there were no in-person write-ins. You either had to drive an hour or two, depending on where you live in northern Indiana, to go to Chicago, or you had to drive downstate to Indianapolis for in-person writing events. And at that point, I'm not going to drive for that. So instead, we shifted off of NaNoWriMo and started instead going on YouTube lives and going on Facebook groups or wherever it was we could find our community, because it wasn't on the NaNoWriMo website. So again, I've been screaming this from the rafters for about 10 years that, like, y'all need to move on with the times or you're going to lose your people. And they did finally start jumping on different platforms around COVID, but it was a little too late. Other people had already formed their groups in other spots, and they didn't need NaNoWriMo anymore. So then fast forward to 2023, I like to call this the nail in the coffin. The last two big scandals they had were the nail in the coffin. Nails, would it be plural? Nails in the coffin? Anyway, so back in 2023, there was a scandal that popped up with a forum moderator who was displaying inappropriate behavior towards minors, if you get my drift. And the response of the organization after people made complaints was very non-response. It was not the response that people wanted. And this opened up a whole can of worms and a lot of conversations about just NaNoWriMo events in general, and about, are they vetting their region leaders? Are they vetting their moderators? How are we making sure that young people are staying safe? For example, right, if a person is a child predator and wants to sign up to be a region leader, they can do that. There's nothing stopping. There's no background check or anything, right? And then they created a writing event in their area, market it towards children, and suddenly you have someone who has ill intentions towards young people hosting an event for young people under the name of NaNoWriMo. And there was no one policing that or checking that to make sure that we had the safest people in place, if that makes sense. And so that was really the can of worms that opened. And because the organization had a very lack of response, shall we say, people became frustrated, and that was the first round of backlash. The second round of backlash happened 1 year later in 2024, when the AI controversy popped up. And the AI controversy, I actually talked about on this channel previously. I will link the video up here so you guys can watch it if you want to. But basically, they came out and made a statement that they would allow AI writing, and that anybody who was against AI writing was, I forget the exact terminology, but you can Google this. It's something like you're classist and ableist. And when I tell you that authors and readers everywhere lost their ever-loving minds, I mean, I was straight pissed, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. AI writing is not writing. I'm sorry. I think there is room for AI tools, but if AI is writing the words for you, you are not the writer of that work. I said what I said. And so when they came out with their statements, it pissed off a lot of people. And in fact, it made so many people angry that last year during NaNoWriMo, people were not participating in NaNoWriMo. They were, but they weren't. This is how we have so many new writing challenges that have popped up, because people still wanted to do National Novel Writing Month. They just didn't want to do it with NaNoWriMo. So probably the most popular one that I've seen in the romance world, especially just like the YouTube world, is Sarah Cannon from Heart Breathings. She has, I can't even remember what her program is called, but she has a version of it. And there's several other authors who have created versions that are basically NaNoWriMo, just under a different name. And there was really no one participating on the actual NaNoWriMo website last year. And so what does that mean for NaNoWriMo? Well, NaNoWriMo is a 501c3 organization, so they run solely off of the donations of people who support them. The downturn in donations, I would say, probably started happening about a decade ago. I mean, I'm not in their financials, so I don't know, but if I had to guesstimate, I would say it would be about a decade ago. This was when we started seeing people leave the NaNoWriMo forum and going on to other forms of social media to meet people in their region. So I saw a big downturn just in postings to the forum in general. And if you're not going on the website, you're probably not donating. So if I had to guess, I would say that that downturn happened about a decade ago. Then during COVID, it was more of a downturn because everybody was laid off and not working, so no one had money. And then when these two last scandals happened back in 2023 and 2024, that again was the final nails in the coffin, and there is just no one donating because they either don't feel like they need the organization or they don't agree with different positions that the organization has taken. So again, I am not shocked or surprised by the closure of NaNoWriMo. I am sad, and I've said this a million times, I'll say it again. I do not want to discredit this organization for being the starting point of so many authors in their career. I will always hold a special place for them in my heart because they are the reason that I am a writer today. But I think that they ran their course. They didn't move forward with the times. They made some huge mistakes in the way they handled some scandals. And I think that they just are, for lack of a better way of saying it, they're no longer needed. And that makes me sad for the people that are, in the organization, and that is their whole life. But I don't think they're needed anymore. So what does this mean for the writing community? I'll be honest with you, I don't know that it has much of an impact on the writing community. I think it's more of a nostalgia thing, right? Like we're all going to be sad that they're gone because so many of us got our starts and blah, blah, blah. But as far as the impact that's going to have on writers, there are so many other ways for us to find our community. All you have to do is search AuthorTube, search AuthorTalk, get on Facebook and look up writing groups. And from all three of those spots, you can find Discord servers, and Reddit has great writing communities. There's so many ways to find your people. And I think that with the creation of different writing challenges under other names that other authors are creating, I don't think it's really going to have a long-term impact on the writing community. I think that we will find our people, we will find our challenges. I look at it as the end of an era, but the beginning of a new chapter. And the question is going to be, who is going to be the person to take the gauntlet and to create the next thing that inspires young writers to write? Because I think that's the big thing that NaNoWriMo did, is it fostered a love of writing and the want to write in many people. But I know that the next thing is out there. The question is, what will it be and who will create it? So I am sad. I bid a fond farewell to NaNoWriMo, and I hope that whoever is working in that organization is able to move on to other things that they love just as much. In the meantime, how are you feeling about the closure of NaNoWriMo? What are you planning to do if you were still participating, or what did you participate in last year? You know, tell me how you're feeling. Let me know your feelings in the comments below. If you liked my video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, all this stuff. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.